Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. And on this Friday, before the divisional playoffs, and obviously cold weather heading into places like Chicago, especially, which will be interesting. Rams haven't played a game under 50 degrees this year. We'll put the football aside. We'll put the coronation of John Harbaugh aside. You'll have your party and your pomp and circumstance and your press conferences next week as the Giants will be feted for their success and begin to climb out of the abyss. But right now, this is about what happened last night as Tucker really rocked the baseball world by signing with the Dodgers for a very handsome amount of money that averaged out as the second highest in baseball behind the big guy. And yes, 10 million of it is deferred. So it comes down to 57 million per year. 30 million of it is deferred, but that's a pittance. And whether or not the Mets did offer a signing bonus or not late, who cares? The bottom line is, again, they didn't get their guy. Okay, that's where it is for the Mets. And this isn't about the Yankees. And it isn't about whether or not the Mets steal Bellinger, who I think will not put up the numbers he put up in Yankee Stadium in Citi Field. Bellinger will hurt the Yankees more than he will help the Mets, in my estimation. He's a positive, but he's not an answer. Okay. And listen, the money for Tucker got outrageous because let's be honest, Tucker's not Aaron Judge. Tucker's not a great player. He's been a good player on a good team. He's a pretty good outfielder. He's not great. He's not Roberto Clemente. He's better than Soto, but so is everybody else. Plus, he goes to a team now where he gets to play right field, which he wouldn't have with the Mets. Which is a big positive for him. He really wasn't a New York guy anyway. I don't know that he's an LA guy, but you know what? The weather's a whole lot nicer. He doesn't have to be the man in either place. But this guy, yes, you could make a case you were overpaying for him, but that is not the point here. That is not the point with the Mets. There are two distinct things that are fallout from the Tucker signing. One is the nuclear winter that everybody expects in baseball when the collective bargaining agreement expires on next December 1. And remember, you are dealing with the strongest union there is, a union that has incredible resolve, a steep history of having incredible resolve, and prepares for years. They voted 100% in 2024 to keep all the revenues from the licensing reserves, video games, baseball cards, and everything in reserve as a war chest to pay the players who don't have a lot of money, who might come in and say, I'm out of money. I want to go back and play. And they say, just sit tight. Here's what you need. And they give them whatever amount of money it is that they allot to these players. They went into the last crisis with a $125 million war chest. Their war chest this time will be maybe triple that. They will have countless hundreds of millions in their war chest. They will not just hand over a luxury, a salary cap. Everyone thinks, oh, baseball is just going to fall over and get a salary cap. They're not. Would the Players Association agree to a bottom that each team has to spend? Absolutely. They will not agree to a top. They will fight a top forever. And that's where salary cap comes in. So that's the first part of this. Okay? That is the first part of this. You have a team. And obviously great disparity. And baseball knows that. What baseball also knows is that while their regular seasons are very predictable, Teams that have no money finish at the bottom. Teams that have money, for the most part, there are bad years like the Mets last year, finish at the top, but they don't win. There have been 16 different World Series winners since 1998. That is more difference. That is a greater variation of winners than the other sports have provided since that time. There are more winners in baseball than there are in hockey or basketball or football. There are more repeat winners in those sports than there are in baseball. Why? Because of the randomness of the playoffs, no matter how good you are. Dodgers last year is an example. A team can get hot and beat you. Now, the Dodgers have won 2 straight, and they'll be heavily favored to win a third. But it was a miracle that they pulled out that last one last year. And there is a randomness to the postseason for the teams that get in there. But there's also this other number that they have to look at, and that is only one team was really low in terms of payroll and revenue and a baseball champion, and that was the Marlins in 2003. When they beat the Yankees, they were 21st. Otherwise, those teams don't win. They might make the playoffs, but they don't win. But other teams do win who get in. And there is more variation of champions in baseball than other sports. 16 different ones since 1998. Baseball will not just roll over. The Players Association will not roll over for a cap. It is something that is steeped in their heritage from Marvin Miller through Fear and Orzer, all the way down the line. It's something that is part of who they are. Plus, they have incredible resolve and incredible resources that allow them to fight. Now, you have a team this year in the Dodgers who, after last night's spending, will be somewhere over $175 million in the max luxury tax this year. That is going to be higher than 15 teams' payrolls. Their luxury tax will be higher than 15 teams' payrolls. There is great disparity because of the money that comes regionally out of baseball. Now, that money is changing because as cable goes out, baseball will try to do what the NBA did, and that is get more centralized money into the pot from streamers and people who do not need regionalization to be strong, like cable did. The cable era is over. We all know that. So now you see a difference, a movement with that money, but are they going to score the way the NBA scored? Let's be honest, the NBA with no ratings got an incredible amount of money. You have to give Silver credit for that. He got a phenomenal $77 billion while his ratings were tanking. That is incredibly smart. I mean, it was a brilliant stroke. No one else is the NFL where they can just go out every year and just get incredible riches from everybody. It doesn't work that way. We know who's at the top of the revenues. The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Cubs, the Red Sox, Atlanta, Philly, Houston, San Francisco, Texas, the Mets, Seattle. We know who's at the bottom. Miami, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Colorado, Minnesota, Milwaukee. We understand that. And most years, the teams will reside where their payrolls and revenues reside. This will not be an easy negotiation. Baseball is headed for a crisis. It is headed for a shutdown. It is headed for a nuclear winter. We all know that. So while that happens, the Dodgers go out and show you that because of their economic brilliance and their economic prowess, they make $350 million from their cable deal. They have phenomenal revenues. Plus, they turn around and make a deal with Otani that allows a $700 million contract to be deferred, which allows them to spend phenomenal amounts of money in present time and have 8 players On a 25-man team, 8 players of the top 25 make over $100 million in contract. 8. Think about that. While the Yankees in the post-George era shrink and become cost conscious and tax conscious and shrink and shrink and shrink in terms of how they attack talent and how they attack the roster and how these things are too rich for them. Nothing really is too rich for the Yankees except between the years where they have become very small-minded. But this isn't about the Yankees. This is about the rebuilding of the Mets right now. They went after him. All right, Toronto offered him 10 years and $350 million, supposedly. 35 a year for 10 years, guaranteed money for 10 years. He got 4 years and $240 million. An outrageous amount of money that puts him way, way above Judge in average salary. The Judge contract right now is ridiculously cheap. One that Judge and his brain trust, hey, if you're working for Judge right now, and Judge is going to be looking at you like, this is what you guys came up with? I left $300 million on the table. And he did in terms of performance. You look at Tucker. Tucker's never had a 30-30 season. Can he be a 30-30 man? Yes. He's capable of stealing 30 bases. He's capable of hitting 30 home runs. He's never done both in the same season. He's never finished. He's only finished in the top 10 in the MVP once. He's a 270 hitter who's had 1 year where he was a 400 on-base percentage guy. He's never scored 100 runs. And he's only knocked in 100 twice. This is not Aaron Judge. This is not Juan Soto. This is a very nice player who makes contact, who has power at all fields, who's a good-looking player, okay, who can do everything, who can field, who has an arm, doesn't have a great arm, isn't a great fielder, but he's okay. But he's never had a superstar season where you say, look at that year. Ever. His high for home runs ever is 30. He's never had 40 doubles in a season. He's never scored 100 runs. This is not a great player. He's 28. Maybe he's on the verge of becoming a great player. Dodgers overpaid for him, but they can. Look at their outfield. They needed him. You know what? When you really look at their outfield, they needed him. And they move Hernandez to the left, and they play this guy in right field. And he doesn't have to be the guy in a lineup where there are so many guys. And there's so many stars. He can just blend in, which is what he likes. But what it also does is it completely minimizes the importance and the strength and the reputation of one Steve Cohen. Last year at this time, Steve Cohen gave the Met fans the gift they never dreamed they would ever get, that they would steal a superstar from the New York Yankees in their prime, in a bidding war. It was for them gleeful. They rewarded the owner by filling the ballpark. The owner and his front office genius responded by giving them an awful baseball season. Couldn't have made the owner happy. But the owner, the way he does things, he obviously lets the guy he wanted. Now, remember, he went after Theo Epstein, and Theo Epstein wanted ownership. He wanted points, and Cohen wasn't sharing points. He owns 97% of the Mets. He wasn't giving away any. So Theo's not here. Theo would have been far more flamboyant than Stearns is. We don't know exactly what Stearns is yet, but what we know is whatever he is, it's not working. It didn't work last year, and right now, it doesn't look like it's gonna work a month away from spring training. Unless his rookies come out of the gate like one of the great rookie classes of all time, they don't have a very good team. They need everything, and they let guys go who were terrific. They let a guy go at first base who hit 40 home runs, hit in the clutch, played every day, and gave you right-handed power to complement your big left-handed power. Nimmo, a crowd favorite. Okay, not a great player, but again, gone. Diaz, who they wanted to keep, gone. They have had a disastrous offseason. And then they go after a guy. And instead of just saying nobody can compete with us, they get beat out by the Dodgers, who are treating it like another day at the office. Remember, Steve Cohen now has been the owner of the team since the fall of 2020. He promised a kind of guaranteed a championship within 5 years. He hasn't produced it. Okay, no one took him seriously on that, but he hasn't been what everybody thought he would be. Yeah, he got his casino. And a lot of people might think that's maybe was his number one motivation. But you know what? The guy who was supposed to be Bobby Axelrod, and if you don't know the reference to Bobby Axelrod, I'm not explaining it to you. The bottom line is he was going to be George on steroids. Baseball was so worried about this guy's Wall Street reputation and his outrageous wealth that they put in a guardian with him in Sandy Alderson. They made him take a guardian to keep him under control because they were afraid he was going to come in and turn baseball on its ear. Instead, he hires a guy who it seems wants to build a nice small market team in the biggest city in the world. Instead of utilizing what are outrageous resources, he wants to do everything his way, but economically. He wants versatility and speed and youth at every position. But you know what? This is New York. You need stars. You need to fill that ballpark. Right now, the Mets are not going to win big, and they're not going to fill that ballpark like they did last year. They owe the fans for last year. The fans paid them back for Soto last year. They filled the park completely. That's what the owner wanted. They did that. And now the owner gets on Twitter, makes his white smoke joke, and then has egg all over his face. He looks like a weak, ineffective billionaire who doesn't know what he's doing and is being led astray by a guy who doesn't understand what it means to have muscle and be in the biggest city in the world. Stearns isn't building a 90-win team for the Milwaukee franchise. He's trying to build a championship team in New York, which means you have to deal with the Yankees, and you have to deal with the Dodgers, and you have to deal with everybody on the biggest of all playing fields. Yeah, he built a payroll. He built a payroll because he paid one guy $700 million. But right now, the Dodger payroll is $100 million more than the Mets. And they, in the last 5 years, have been where Steve Cohen promised to take his fan base, and they've gone back, and they've won once, and they've won twice, and the Mets are coming off a disastrous season, and right now they have a second division roster. And they're getting beat every time they turn around. As the players run away, the plan. See, when you go out and stretch for a player, and you're Stearns and you're Cohen, right now, after you let Alonso go, After you ship off Nimmo and you lose Diaz, you have to win that player, or it looks like you have lost all your strength, financial strength, baseball acumen, and everything in between. And that's how the Mets looked this morning. The Met fans like, I've about had it with this guy. Now, I didn't have a problem with him not wanting certain guys. I don't have a problem with him having a design, but what cannot be lost on him is he's in New York. And if he's going to make the Mets who the owner promised they would be, he has to compete with the Dodgers and he has to compete with the Yankees. And that means when a player comes up, not after the fact leak that you offered him a little bonus money, you'll already lost the player. That looks feeble. Oh, we also offered us. So now you're telling me that guys don't want to come here. That's great. That's a great message to send. When your owner is the almighty richest man in baseball and you are in the greatest city in the world, and now, a year after you conquered the Yankees by bringing in Monsoto, players don't want to come here no matter how much money you throw at them? Nice. Last year, you went forward without a pitching staff and you got destroyed. Now, you need starting pitchers. Now, you need power. Now, you need a lineup. You went out and got a versatile second baseman who's coming off a bad year offensively and a versatile first baseman who is not in any way on his best day ever going to even hit half as many home runs as Alonso hit. Not half as many. If he hit 20, that would be a great year. And you ran Alonso out of here for nothing, for money that you could have put half of it back in your pocket and paid Alonso. And you didn't want any part of him. Okay, that means you have to have a plan. And in New York, that plan has to include some bigness and some star quality. And it's a power and pitching game, and you just completely stripped the team of both. You didn't want Diaz to leave. Well, you misplayed that one too. He's done nothing right. And I'm here trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't see him building anything. I see him losing anything he wants. And now the owner, who wants to be public, who really does want to please, he and his wife want to be Met fan pleasers. It's obvious. And I'm not a Met fan, but it's obvious they do. They've given you an experience at the ballpark. They've tried to make things there nice. They've put great food in the building. They want the franchise to be a great experience for you. They do, and they want to give you players. And they gave you a player that they stripped from the Yankees, that the Yankees wanted in the worst way. It was a great victory. Now, a year later, you can't even remember it. They've done so many things in a small way since. And this owner who they were afraid with all his riches and all his Wall Street bravado and his big reputation, they did a show about this guy. If you've never watched the character that this man is supposed to be, he is supposed to be a ruthless, I win every time kind of guy. And he's getting punched this way and that way and knocked down and humiliated in baseball right now. So my question is, how long does he take that, or doesn't he care? The Yankees have lost their way because they lost their leader. Cohen could have bought George over and over and back 9 billion times. George didn't have serious money. This guy's got serious, game-changing, crazy billions money. This man doesn't have $1 billion. He's got $25 billion. They were scared to death this guy was going to come in and turn baseball on its ear. And instead, all he has done is make promises other than Soto that he couldn't keep. And now you know what he looks like? He looks like just another owner. And I doubt Cohen got into this to just be another owner. I know he got his casino. I understand that. And he's going to make a ton of money on that. But I was never worried about Cohen making money. Championships were going to be a lot harder to come by than him making a buck. I know Cohen can make a buck. He's proved that his whole life. He knows how to make a buck. There's plenty of guys on Wall Street who know how to make a buck. And the guys who have come in to Major League Baseball or the NFL and thought they were going to set it on their ear like Tepper or Cohen, they don't want anything. They're not as smart here as they think they are. And Stearns is a bright guy from what everybody says, and he paid him $10 million to come here and build his baseball team. And you know what? I don't know how long he's going to give him before he has to see results. But right now, it's not working. Now, I'm willing to give Stearns his time. I've been sitting there saying, hey, I'm going to be very interested in what the product is. But when he chases and he loses, you can't do that when you've already lost Diaz and Alonso and Nimmo and ripped the heart out of Met fans by taking away their favorite players who also happen to be really good players. And having such an arrogant philosophy that you last year understood, don't worry, I will show you how we will piece the pitching together. And then having independent race not have the ability to get 5 innings against a bad team out of any of your starters. No less not being able to score, which costs you a trip to the playoffs. Against teams with payrolls that are, not even in the same stratosphere as yours. That's embarrassing. Stearns wakes up this morning and he's got to say, I got to get moving. Cohen wakes up this morning after having a busy night on social media and has to be embarrassed. He's got egg all over his face. He's not eating those eggs this morning. He's wiping them off his face. He looks like an ineffective, soft, middle-of-the-road owner who talks a big game and doesn't get the job done and puts people in place who do the same thing. Last year wasn't acceptable for the Mets. They needed a bounce-back performance. They needed to show their fan base, which showed up last year and bought tickets in a big way, that we are going to put the right product on the field, even if we strip away some of your favorites. Sorry, we're going to do that. We don't like this team. We don't like this clubhouse. We don't like that this guy doesn't get along with that guy. We don't like the way this guy plays. We have a different vision. Okay. Stearns picked you out. He's supposed to be, Cohen picked you out. You're supposed to be really smart. He waited to get you. He gave you $10 million. He couldn't get Theo because Theo wanted ownership. He got you. He waited to get you. He said, this is the guy who's going to give me my championship. And now that guy has sent guys out the door, watched guys walk out the door, and hasn't produced anything that will move the team the other way. And that's where they are on January 16th, a month before the training camp. Before they'll all be down in Port St. Lucie, figuring this all out and hoping like heck that their rookies perform. Perform in the outfield, perform on the mound, because otherwise they are going to be a second division ball club. Not a contender a second division. See, everyone get on the Yankees about not spending money. Everybody get on the Yankees about not chasing the Dodgers and not chasing the World Series. And all that's true. But the Yankees are going to win 94 or 95 games this year. They got a great pitching staff. They got the best player in baseball. They need an outfielder. They got the best player in baseball. They have other players who were good players, and they have a great pitching staff, especially the starters. They could have the best starting rotation in all of baseball. They are going to win. They won 94 games last year. They are going to win 90-something games. You can't say that about the Mets. Despite Soto being there, despite Lindor being there. Stearns has a plan, fine. When does he start implementing it? Or does he think he can do it in the dark and no one needs to see, and all of a sudden we'll wake up on opening day and we'll say, where did all these guys come from? Right now, to put a decent team together before opening day, he's going to have to make trades. He can't. There's not enough left in the free agent market for him to do it, even if he goes crazy. Especially since we're a day or two away. I mean, listen, Bellinger should go back to the Yankees. He's going to be far less effective on the Mets than he is on the Yankees. He's a perfect complement to Judge, and also he's made for that park. He knows that. He's going to hit in that park. Listen, certain left-handers understand. If Bobby Mercer had not been pushed through the years at Citi Field or Shea Stadium when it was Bobby, when they were redoing Yankee Stadium, and then moved into San Francisco where all he wanted to do was make jokes about Patty Hearst and didn't want to play there, and then to the Cubs before he came back to the Yankees as a part-time player. If none of that had ever happened, if George hadn't gotten mad because Bobby popped up against the Red Sox and said, that guy's not my cleanup hitter, that little guy is not my cleanup hitter, and I'm paying him $125,000 a year, get rid of him. And he brought Bobby Bonds in a trade that really annoyed a lot of Yankee fans, including me. Was it a smart trade? Yes, because they turned Bobby Bonds after one good year into Ed Figueroa and Mickey Rivers, which turned out to be two cornerstones of them winning championships. And Bobby wasn't a great player. He was a good player with a flair for the dramatic. But if he had stayed at Yankee Stadium, where he knew the secret is, doesn't matter what size you are. If you operate out of the left-handed batter's box at Yankee Stadium, and you understand that you can hook the bad pitches over the outside third, don't hit those the other way. Hook those into the lower deck and right. And once you realize that art of taking the bad pitch that's in the strike zone in the outer third, that's low and away, that you can hook into that stadium. And Bobby, who hit 252 home runs in his career, would have hit 450 if he stayed at Yankee Stadium. If he never left the day, he would have hit 450 home runs. He wouldn't have made the Hall of Fame. He wasn't a Hall of Famer. He had some good years. He had 33 homers one year. He batted over, 330 another year. He had some really good years. He made the All-Star team a bunch of times. He's a good player. But he wasn't a great player, and he wasn't Mickey Mantle, which we know. And the bottom line is, though, he understood how to utilize the lower deck and right, just like Oscar Gamble did, just like Jim Spencer did, just like left-handers have forever. Well, Bellinger understands that, too. He's going to hit a lot more home runs at Yankee Stadium than he is anywhere else. And he knows that. And I'm sure that plays into his mind. And sure it plays into his mind to be there, to be batting in the lineup with Judge, who's the best player in baseball and highly underappreciated and highly underpaid. So I think he is better. I don't think he's a game changer for the Mets by any stretch. I think he's far more important to the Yankees. I would expect him to go back there. That's not going to change the Mets' fates. Bellinger isn't good enough to carry the Mets. He's a nice player, but on the Mets, he's going to get lost. In the Yankees, he has a big impact. There's no question. Because you can utilize that porch, and it's worth an extra 10 or 15 homers if you know what you're doing. They all can take the low inside pitch and hit it into the deck. If you're a lefty who's worth playing, you can do that. But you have to learn to hook the outside pitch. And when you do that, the homers just keep coming as you hit these 325, 30-foot fly balls that you're 4 and 5 rows deep. That's the art form. Not the righty who dunks the one in the first row. It's the lefty who dunks it 6 rows deep on a nice little fly ball. That's the art form. Having those guys is very important on the Yankees. Bellinger gives them another one of those guys. But this isn't about the Yankees right now. The Yankees are going to be okay. Listen, if you don't realize the Yankees are not the Yankees anymore like you knew them under George Steinbrenner, then you're not paying attention. They're not. They're not. They've become incredibly conscious of what they spend and what they pay out and what they do. They're about business now as more than they are about championships. George was about championships. They're not about championships anymore. Because you can tell that they just don't have that burning desire. Now, Cohen talks that burning desire, but he's got to prove he has it. And he sure has the resources to turn things upside down. But right now, as you wake up today, after his tweet about white smoke and waiting for the answer, you know what? The answer was no. The answer is you're just another owner right now, and you own just another team that right now isn't even a challenger. Your fan base wonders what the heck is going on, what you promised them, and what reality is. A lot of work to do. We'll see you later.